Good morning, everyone. I'm Rachel from SpeechForLife, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about part 1 in our series, which will be on reading and writing. We're going to start today with the preschool age children, and each week I will talk about a different grade after that. So today is really going to be covering 0 to age 5. So I have some notes here to stay organized and focused. And the first thing to know for the skills of a child that's up to 1 year, as far as literacy and reading and writing, for reading, they should really just be able to look at a book, and they don't really have to be enjoying it yet, but they should be able to look and listen for a really short book. Like, it doesn't even have to be a whole minute, but they should be able to crawl over to the book and kind of mess with it, maybe bite on it. That's kind of the phase my little one is in right now. But if I open the book and start to read and point, she actually looks like she's attending to the book. For up to age 2, when your child is looking at a book, they should be showing more interest and really be crawling over, well, at that age, walking over to the books and really opening them and looking at the pictures with you and by themselves. And they should kind of start to make sounds while they're looking at the pictures. So not necessarily saying the words. If they do, that's fabulous, because they should have a good number of words in their vocabulary by the age of 2. But just kind of interacting with the book and maybe holding it upside down, but picking it up and opening it and able to kind of turn cardboard pages, maybe several at a time. For that age group, 0 to 2, I would say that it's really important that you use books that have really a lot of bright colors and contrasting. Babies are still developing their eyesight, so it's really important to have contrasting colors. And I love these finger puppet books, and these texture books. I have several examples here. So cardboard books are great because they can chew on them and you can wipe them off if they get gross. I also love these. They're washable and they're interactive, they're crinkly, so the texture really gets them involved even though they're not reading yet. We're teaching them to like these things that we call books, even if they're in different shapes and sizes. I love this one. It's so interactive and it makes sound effects. I love you. Isn't that adorable? It has a nice little chew toy attached so they can chew and work on attending to a task while you're actually, reading the words to them or singing a song. This is another favorite. Good old Pokey Little Puppy. This is from when I was a baby. One of my first favorite books. And I loved it then and I love it now because you can actually follow directions and your child can imitate you doing the things even if you're not quite reading the words all the time. It moves. It's a good, cute little pop-up book. There used to be a ticket in here. Let's see. Do you still have the ticket? Haha, I do! So just even taking books out, picking out a book when it's story time, at bedtime, all of those things are starting to develop a real passion for text and literacy and learning. So then up to age 3, your child should know that the words on the page have meaning, and they might not be able to tell you what the word is yet. They probably won't. But it's good if they know that when you're pointing to a word, it is actually one word. And they should be able to start pointing to pictures and naming things in the pictures. So they won't be pointing to the words and knowing the words, but like Pokey Little Puppy, they might look and say sleepy or Mimi or whatever their word is for taking a nap. They might say puppy or starting to introduce the colors. They might know red is usually the first color that kids seem to know. You can work on words that describe things like soft. Oh, his nose is so soft. And this one used to be a scratch and sniff. Not anymore so much, but still fun. Sparkly. Oh, and then you can tie in Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, even though it's not saying anything about Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Right there. Soft, fuzzy belly. Pat, pat is what we teach our little one. Pat, pat. Using soft hands, gentle hands with books is really perfect if you have something fuzzy with an animal that you also would want them to be respectful of and gentle. So that's up to age 3. Also rhyming, they'll start to develop an understanding of rhyme. So they should be able to kind of start predicting what word might be at the end of a sentence. Really good book for this. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Hop on Pop. Pretty much any Dr. Seuss book. Go Dogs Go is a good one. Think Dr. Seuss-ish kind of things for 0 to 3 when you're really trying to think of a book that has rhyme scheme. It's important at age 3 that your child is starting to repeat phrases from books. So books that have repetition over and over and over. Even Corduroy has some lines in it. I know I've talked about some of these books before. Let's see. Could this be a... And then he says the word mountain when he's going up the escalator. I think I've always wanted to climb. Then your child can say mountain because it's kind of predicting that next part in the text. Another great example is Brown Bear, Brown Bear. Pictures really tell the story there. It's perfect. I don't have that one in front of me right now. Brown Bear, what do you see? I see a... It's working on sentence building, and that repetition, learning sentences, that's the language part of all of this. But then the literacy is then easier for them to grasp when they already know what the words are to hear them. When they start putting that association with each word, that comes a little bit later, but it's really that building block. At age 3, your child should start to sit and look like they're reading alone. They should kind of have the book facing the right way. They should be able to hold the book, turn one paper page at a time, and they should be able to sit and look at books either with you or by themselves between 5 to 15 minutes. If your child has never held a book before and they're 3, they might really need you to catch them up on some of these earlier tasks. So even though you might be listening for an older child, go back and listen to the first part. If your child isn't yet doing the things for their age, kind of go backwards and start from the beginning doing these things. Because if your child can't look at a book for 1 minute when they're 1 or 2, when they're 3, you can't expect them to sit for 15 minutes and look at a book. By age 3, your child should also be pretending to read, like actually saying words, kind of making up their own story to go with the pictures. By age 4, they should be able to recognize several letters. And they should be able to recognize up to 4 letters. Up to 4 letters. So they don't need to know the whole alphabet at 3 years old. But if they at least can recognize ABC, or some of the vowels are really important. And they should pretend to read and actually start pointing to each word when they're making up their own words. And by then they should be very accurate at guessing the rhyme of the story, what word will come next, even with the pictures helping them. It shows that they're really comprehending the story and that they have an understanding for the rhyme. Up to age 5, they should start to retell the story in order. This is called narrative skills. So there's different levels of development for that too. I could do a whole series on just narrative development. But at this point, when your child is 5, they should be able to look at a nice story like Madeline. It really has a beginning, middle, and end. There's a lesson in the story. Your child should be able to look at this book. You read it first, then they go back and have their turn to read it, where they actually are telling what's happening in each picture, actually telling the parts of the story, not just making up their own version or just commenting, that yellow. They shouldn't just say, look, that's yellow. That's good for a 3-year-old, but if your child is 5, they should be able to say the part about them. They're walking in straight lines. They go to the park. Madeline is brave because she is not afraid of the tiger. And you should be able to help them by prompting them by asking questions. What happens next? Who is this story about? What's your favorite part of the story? Why do all the girls pretend to have a tummy ache at the end? Answering questions like that will really help them work on their comprehension element. It's also important by age 5 that they can identify which part of the book is the front, which part is the back if you're asking them, and they should be able to point out the title, the author, and the illustrator. In a lot of states, that's actually part of the state testing requirements, is that your child needs to know which part is the author and which part is the illustrator and which part's the title. So don't take those things for granted. Strategies. Words are everywhere. So start when your child is young. If you feel like your child is behind, start with these tips. Don't just start with the reading level that they should be on. Start at the beginning doing these strategies. That's what we do in therapy. And if you feel like your child is behind, I really want to encourage you to contact me or someone like me that is a speech language pathologist that is trained in giving you the strategies and training to help your child. And really work with your child one-on-one with strategies that just work for them. So, number 1, talk about everything you do. Say what you will do, what we will do later today. Talk about what you're doing while you're doing it. So later we are going to bake a cake. Now we are baking a cake, so let's look at the recipe. And then at dinner time, oh, what did we do today? So you're actually teaching the different tenses, which will help when you're practicing the different verb tenses. That will help with their reading comprehension. They'll understand that a story took place previously, or it's going to happen, or what's happening right now. And then in their writing eventually, that will be very important as well. Next strategy, point out either the pictures if they're 0 to 2, start pointing to letters and words when they're age 3. Use and point out that there are letters and words everywhere around us. Not just books, but you can pick up a piece of mail. You can pick up your cough drops and show them the words. You can open a recipe book and show them, oh, this is Grandma's old recipe. Look at Grandma's beautiful handwriting. Cereal boxes, reading text messages, reading game rules out of a board game box. Those are all awesome ways to just show that words are around us and such an important part of life. We discussed repetitive words and phrases. If your child is any age really, if they're just starting up to preschool age up to age 5, I really want you to be introducing books that have repetition so that they can start to predict the meaning of the text and they can really associate a word that is written with a word that is spoken, even if they're not able to sound out the word yet. You can play games like I'm thinking of a word that rhymes with, or I'm thinking of a word that starts with B. And then you can say a bunch of different words that start with the sound B. Doesn't have to be the name of the letter, but it has to start with the same sound. All right, everybody, that's it for today. Have an awesome week. Feel free to comment, share, and let me know if you have any questions or comments. And I will see you next week for part 2 of our series. We'll talk about kindergarten reading skills next week and some activities you can do. So have a great weekend.